She hesitates. Oh, practice log 4. She hesitates. If Shafa decides to kill the other children of Found Moon, he won't, will he? He said he won't. Shafa pauses, raising an eyebrow above his smile, the picture of polite, calm inquiry. It's an illusion. The silver is still a lashing whip within Shafa, trying to goad him into killing her. He must be in an astonishing pain. He resists the goad, however, as he has for weeks. He does not kill her, because he loves her. And she trusts nothing, no one, if she does not trust him. Okay, Nassun says, I'll see you at Daddy's. As she pulls away from him, she glances at Steele, who has turned to face Shafa as well. Somewhere in the past few breaths, Steele has gotten the blood off of his lips. She doesn't know how, but he has held out one gray hand toward them. No, toward Shafa. Shafa tilts his head at this for a moment, considering, and then, after a moment, he deposits the bloody iron shod into Shafa's hand. Steele's hand flicks closed, and then uncurls again slowly, as if performing a sleight-of-hand trick. But the iron shard is gone. Shafa inclines his head in polite thanks. Her two monstrous protectors who must cooperate on her care, yet is Nassun not a monster too? Because of the thing that is sensed just before Jija came to kill her. That spike of immense power concentrated and amplified by dozens of Blesks working in tandem. Steele has called this Eblusk Gate a vast and complex mechanism, created by the dead Civ that built the Eblesks for some unfathomable purpose. Steele has also mentioned a thing called the Moon. Nassun has heard the stories once long ago. Father Earth had a child. That child's loss is what angered him and brought about the seasons. The tale offers a message of impossible hope and mindless expression that Loras used to intrigue restless audiences. One day, if the Earth's child never ever returns, the implication is that someday Father Earth might be appeased at last. Someday the seasons might end and all could become right within the world. Right with the world. Except fathers still try to murder their origin children, won't they? Even if the moon comes back, nothing will ever stop that. Bring the moon. Bring home the moon, Steele has said. End the world's pain. Some choices aren't choices at all, really. Nassun wills the power of the sapphire to come hover before her again. She can suss nothing in the wake of Umber and Nita's negation, but there are other ways to perceive the world, and amid the flickering unwater of the sapphire, as it unmakes, it remakes itself from the concentrated immensity of silver light stored within its crystal lattice. There's a subtle message written in equations of force and balance that Nassun solves instinctively with something other than math. Far away across the unknown sea, her mother may hold the Eblusk Gate key. But Nassun learned on the ash roads that there are other ways to open any gate, hinges to pop, ways to climb over or dig under, and far away on the other side of the world is a better place where Issun's control over the gate can be subverted. I know where we need to go, Shafa, Nassun says. He eyes her for a moment, his gaze flicking to Steele and back. Do you know now? Yes. It's a really long way, she bites her lip. Will you go with me? He inclines his head, his smile wide and warm. Anywhere, my little one. Nassun lets out a long breath of relief, smiling up at him tentatively. Then she deliberately turns her back on Found Moon and its corpses, and walks down the hill without ever once looking back. 2729 Imperial. Witnesses in the calm of Ahmad, Deba, Cortant, Western Nobedlance, report an unregistered Roga female opening up a gas pocket near the town. Unclear what gas was, killed in seconds, purpling of tongue, suffocation rather than toxicity? Both? Another Roga female reportedly stopped the first one's effort somehow, as she shunted the gas back into the vent before sealing it. A man's citizens shot both as soon as possible to prevent further incidents. Gas pocket assessed by Fulcrum as substantial, enough to have killed most people and livestock in the western half of Nobedlats, with follow-up topsoil contamination initiating female aged 17 reacted to the reported molester of young sister, quelling female age 7, sister of first. Project notes of Yitar Innovator DeBars. Hua, sons a voice behind me. Me? Sly angst. 5. Hua, says a voice behind me. Me? Me? I turned from the stringing window in the garden of winking flowers. A woman stands of the Gewa, and one of the conductors. I do not know her. To the eyes, she is one of them, a skin as soft all over brown, her eyes gray, hair black-brown and curling in ropes, tall. There are hints of other in the breadth of her face, or perhaps, viewing this memory now, though she lens of millennia, I see what I want to see. What she looks like is irrelevant. To my Cecipine, her kinship to us is as obvious as Gewa's puffy white hair. She exerts a pressure upon the ambient that is churning, impossibly heavy, irresistible force. This makes her as much one of us as she'd been decanted from the same biomagnetic mix. You look like her. No, I want you to look like her. That is unfair. Even if it's true, you are like her, but in other ways than mere appearance. My apologies for reducing you in such a way. The conductor speaks as her kind do, in thin vibrations that only ripple the air and barely stir the ground. Words. I know this conductor's name word, Phylin, and I know too that she is one of the nicer ones, but this knowledge is still and indistinct. Like so much about them, for a very long time I could not tell the difference between one of their kind and another. They all look different, but they have the same non-presence within the ambient. I still have to remind myself that hair textures and eye shapes and body orders each have as much meaning to them as perturbations of tectonic plates have to me. I must be respectful of their difference. We are the deficit ones, after all, stripped of much that would have made us human. This was necessary, and I do not mind what I am. I like being useful, but many other things would be easier if I could understand our creators better. So I stare at the new woman, the us woman, and try to pay attention while the conductor introduces her. Introduction is a ritual that consists of explaining the sounds of names and the relations of the families, professions. Honestly, I don't know. I stand where I am supposed to and say the things I should. The conductor tells the new woman that I am Hoa, and that Gewa is Gewa, which are the name words they use for us. The new woman and the conductor says is Kalinli. They use for us. The new woman, oh boy, Kalinli. That's wrong too. Her name is actually Deep Stab. Breach of clay, sweet burst, soft silicate underlay, reverberation. But I will try to remember Kalinli in when I use the words to speak. The conductor seems pleased that I say how do you do when I'm supposed to. I'm glad. Introduction is very difficult, but I've worked hard to become good at it. After this, she starts speaking to Kalinli. When it becomes clear that the conductor has nothing more to say to me, I move behind Gewa and begin plaiting some of her thick, poofy mane of hair. The conductors seem to like it when we do this, though I don't really know why. One of them said that it was cute to see us taking care of one another, just like people. I'm not sure what cute means. Meanwhile, I listen. Just doesn't make sense, Feline is saying, with a sigh. I mean, the numbers don't lie, but if you'd like to register an objection, begins Kalinli. Her words fascinate me in a way that words have never before. Unlike the conductor, her voice has weight and texture, strata deep in layer. She sends the words into the ground while she speaks as a kind of subvocalization. It makes them feel more real. Phelan, who doesn't seem to notice how much deeper Colleen's words are, or maybe she just doesn't care, makes an uncomfortable face in reaction to what she said. Kalinli repeats, if you'd like to, I can ask Galat to take me off the rooster. And listen to his shouting, evil death, he'd never stop. Such a savage temper he has. Feline smiles. It's not an amused smile. It must be hard for him, wanting the project to succeed, but also wanting you kept. Well, I'm fine with you on standby only, but I haven't seen the stimulation data. I have, Kalinli's tone is grave. The delay failure risk was small but significant. Well, there you are. Even a small risk is too much. If we can do something about it, I think they would have been more anxious than they're letting on. Though to involve you. Abruptly, Finland looks embarrassed. Ah, sorry, no offense meant. Kalinli smiles. Both I and Gewa can see that is only a surface layering and not a real expression. None taken. Phelan exhales in relief. Well, then, I'll just withdraw to observation and let you three get to know each other. Knock when you're done. With that, Conductor Phelan leaves the room. This is a good thing, because when conductors are not around, we can speak more easily. The door closes, and I move to face Gewa, who is actually cracked geoid taste of adolescent salt's fading echo. She nods minutely, because I have correctly guessed that she has something important to tell me. We are always watched. A certain amount of performance is essential. Gewa says with her mouth, Coordinator Phelan told me that they're making a change to our configuration. With the rest of her, she says, is an atmospheric perturbations and anxious plucking of the silver threads. Titlewa has been moved to the briar patch. A change at this late day? I glanced up at the ass woman cleanly, as if to follow if she is following the whole conversation. She looks so much like one of them. All that surface coloring and all those long bones that made her head taller than both of us. Do you have something to do with the project? I asked her. Well, also responded to Gewa's news about Titlewa. No. My no is not denial, just a statement of fact. We can still detect Titlewa's familiar hot spot royal and strata uplift grind of subsidence, but something is different. He's not nearby anymore, or at least he's not anywhere that is in the range to our seismic questings, and the royal and grind of him have gone nearly still. Decommissioned is the word that conductors prefer to use. When one of us is removed from service, they have asked us individually to describe what we feel when the change happens, because it is a disruption of our network. By unspoken agreement, each of us speaks at the sensation of loss, a pulling away, a draining, a thinning of signal strength. By unspoken agreement, none of us mentions the rest, which in any case is indescribable, using conductor words. What we experience is a searing sensation prickling all over, in the tumble-down resistance tangle of ancient pre-Silogistan wires, such as we sometimes encounter in our explorations of the Earth. Gone, rusted, and sharp in its decay, wasted potential. Something like that. Who gave the order? I want to know. Gewa has become a slow fault ripple of stark, frustrated, confusing patterns. Conductor Galat. The other conductors are angry about it, and someone reported it to the higher-ups. That's why they sent Kalinli here. It took all of us to hold the oxen in the moonstone. They are concerned about our stability. Annoyed, I return. Perhaps they should have thought of that before. I do have something to do with the project, yes, interrupts Kalinli. Although there has been no break of disruption of the verbal conversation, words are very slow compared to Earth talk. I have some arcane awareness, you see, and similar abilities to yours. Then she adds, I'm here to teach you. She switches as easily as we do between the words of the conductors and our language, the language of the Earth. Her communicative presence is radiant, heavy, metal, searing crystallized magnetic lines of meteoric iron, and more complex layers underneath this, all so sharp-edged and powerful that Gewa and I both inhale to wonder. But what is she saying? Teach us. We don't need to be taught any. We were decanted knowing nearly anything we needed to know already, and the rest we learned in the first few weeks of life with our fellow tuners. If we hadn't, we wouldn't be in the brighter patch too. I make sure to frown. How can you be eternal like us? This is a lie spoken for our observers, who see only the surface of things and think we do too. She is not white like us, not short of strange, but we have known her for one of ours since we left. The cataclysm of her presence, I do not disbelieve that she is one of us. I cannot disbelieve. This is incontrovertible. Clearly smiles and with a awareness that acknowledges the lie, not quite like you, but closed enough. You're the finished the artwork. I'm the model. Threads of magic in the earth heat and reverberate and add other meanings. Prototype. A control to our experiment made early to see how we should be done. She has only one difference. Instead of the many that we process, she has our carefully designed Cecipine. Is that enough to help us accomplish the task? The certainty in her earth presence says yes. She continues in words, I'm not the first that has made, just the first to survive. We all push a hand at the air to ward off evil earth, but I allow myself to look like I don't understand, as I wonder if we dare trust her. I saw how the conductor relaxed around her. Phelan is one of the nice ones, but she never forgets what we are. She forgot with Kalinli, though. Perhaps all humans think she is one of them, until someone tells them otherwise. What is that like, being treated as human when one is not? And then there's the fact that they've left her alone with us. They treat like weapons that might misfire at any moment, but they trust her. How many fragments have you attuned to yourself? I ask aloud, as if this thing that matters. It is also a challenge. Only one, Kalinli sighs, but she's smiling. The onyx. Oh, that does matter. Gaiwan exchanged a look of wonder and concern before facing her again. And the reason I'm here, Kalinli continues, abruptly insistent upon delivering this important information with mere words, which somehow perversely serves to emphasize them. It's because the order has been issued. The fragments are at optimum storage capacity and are ready for the generative cycle. Core point in Zero Site will live in 28 days. We're finally starting up the plutonic engine. In tens of thousands of years after people have repeatedly forgotten what ninjas are, and I know the fragments of nothing but obelisks, there will be a different name for the thing that rules our lives now. It will be called the Obelisk Gate, which is more poetic and quaintly primitive. I like that name better. In the present, while Gaiwa and I stand there staring, Kalinli drops the one last shocker into the vibrations of our cells. That means I have less than a month to show you who you really are. Gaiwa frowns. I manage not to react because the conductors watch our bodies as well as our faces. But it is a narrow thing. I'm very confused and not a little unnerved. I have no idea, in the presence of this conversation, that it is the beginning of the end, because we Turners are not origins, you see. Orogeny is what the difference of us will become over generations of adaptation to a changed world. You are the shallower, more specialized, more natural distillation of our unnatural strangeness. Only a few of you, like Alabaster, will ever come close to the power and versatility we hold. But that is because we are constructed as intentionally and artificially as the fragments you call obelisks. We are fragments of the great machine, too, just as much a triumph of gene engineering, biomagistry, and geomagistry, and other disciplines for which the future will have no name. But by our existence we glorify the world that made us, like any other statue or scepter or other precious object. We do not resent this, for our opinions and experiences have been carefully constructed too. We do not understand that what Kalinli has come to give us is a sense of peoplehood. We do not understand why we have been forbidden this self-concept before now, but we will. And then we will understand that people cannot be possessions, and because we are both and this should not be, a new concept will take shape within us, though we have never heard the word for it because the conductors are forbidden to even mention it in our presence. Revolution. Well, we don't have such much use for words anyway, but that's what this is. The beginning. You, Essen, will see the end. It takes a few days for you to Chapter 3. You Imbalanced. It takes a few days for you to recover enough to walk on your own. As soon as you can, Ika reappropriates your stretcher bearers to perform other tasks, which leaves you to hobble along weak and made clumsy by the loss of your arm. The first few days you lag well behind the bulk of the group, catching up to the camp with them only hours after they settle for the night. There isn't much left of the communal food by the time you go to take your share. Good thing you don't feel hunger anymore. There aren't many spaces to lay out your bedroll either, though they did at least give you a basic pack and supplies to make up for your lost runny sack. What spaces there aren't good, located near the edges of the camp or off the road altogether, where the danger of attack by wildlife calmless is greater. You sleep there anyway because you're exhausted. You suppose that if there's any real danger, Hoa will carry you off again. He seems able to transport you for short distances through the earth with no trouble. Still, Yika's anger is a hard thing to bear in more ways than one. Tonke and Hoa lag behind with you. It's almost like the old days, except that now Hoa appears as you walk, gets left behind as you keep walking, then reappears again somewhere ahead of you. Most times he adopts a neutral posture, but occasionally he's doing something ridiculous, like the time you find him in a running pose. Apparently the Stone Eaters get bored too. Hajarka stays with Tonke, so that's 4 of you. Well, 5. Lerna lingers to walk with you too, angry at what he perceives as the mistreatment of one of his patients. He didn't think a recently comatose woman should be made to walk at all, let alone left to fall behind. You try to tell him not to stick with you, not to draw Castrima's wrath upon himself, but he snorts and says that if Castrima really wants to antagonize the only person in the comm who's formally trained to do surgery, they don't deserve to keep him. Which is, well, it's a very good point. You shut up. You're managing better than Lerna expected, at least. That's mostly because it wasn't really a comm. And also because you hadn't lost all your road conditioning during the 7 or 8 months that you lived in Castrima. The old habits come back easily, really, finding a steady, if slow, pace that nevertheless eats up the miles wearing your pack low so that the bulk of its weight braces against your butt rather than pulling on your shoulders. Keeping your head down as you walk so that the fallen ash doesn't cover up your goggles. The loss of your arm is more of a nuisance than a real hardship, at least with so many willing helpers around. Aside from flurrying off your balance and plaguing you with the phantom itches or aches from fingers or an elbow that doesn't exist, the hardest part is getting dressed in the morning. It's surprising how quickly you master squatting to piss or defecate without falling over. But maybe you're just more motivated after days in a diaper. So you're holding your own, just slowly at first, and you're getting faster as the days go, but here's the problem with all of this. You're going the wrong way. Tonke comes over to sit by you one evening. You can't leave until we're a lot further west, she says without preamble. Almost to the Murs, I'm thinking. If you want to make it that far, you're going to have to patch things up with Yika. You glare at her, though. For Tonke, this is discreet. She's waited till Hajarka is snoring in her bedroll and Lerna's gone off to use the camp latrine. Hoa is still nearby, standing unsubtle, guarding you over your small group of the Khan encampment, the curves of his black marble face underlit by the fire. Tonke knows he's loyal to you, though to the degree that loyalty means anything to him. Yika hates me, you finally say, after glaring fails to produce anything that's like Chargan to regret in Tonke. She rolls her eyes. Trust me, I know hate. What Yika's got is scared and a good bit of mad, but some of that you deserve. You put her people in danger. I saved her people from danger. And cross the encampment as if to illustrate your point. You notice someone moving about clunkily. It's one of the Arena's soldiers, a few of whom were captured alive after the last battle. They've put a pranger on her, a hinged wooden collar around her neck, and the holes in the planks holding her arms up and apart, linked by 2 chains to manacles on her legs. Primitive, but effective. Lerna's been tending the prisoner's chafing sores, and you understand that you're allowed to put the prangers aside at night. It's better treatment than Castrima's would have gotten from the Arenas if the situations were reversed. But still, it makes everything awkward. It's not like the Rainies can leave, after all. Even without the prangers, if any one of them escapes now with no supplies and lacking the protection of a large group, They'll be meat within days. The Prangers are just an insult on top of injury, and a disquieting reminder to all that things could be worse. You look away. Tonke sees you looking. Well, you saved Castrima from one danger, and then delivered them into something just as bad. Yika only wanted the first half of that. I couldn't have avoided the second half. Should I have just let the Stone Eaters kill all the Rogas? Kill her? If they'd succeeded, none of the Geoid's mechanisms would have worked anyway. She knows that. That's why I said it wasn't hate. But, Tonke sighs as if you being especially stupid. Look, Castrima is an experiment. Not the Geoid. The people she's always known it was precarious. Trying to make a calm out of strays and Rogas, but it was working. She made the old-timers understand that we needed the newcomers. Got everybody to think of Rogas as people. Got them to agree to live underground in a dead civ ruin that could have killed all of us at any moment. Even kept them from turning on each other when the Grey Stone Eater gave them a reason. I stopped that, you muttered. But you're listening. You helped, Tonke concedes. But if it had just been for you, you know full well that it wouldn't have worked. Castrima works because of Yika. Because they know she'll die to keep this calm going. Help Castrima and Yika will be on your side again. It will be weeks, maybe even months, before you reach the non-vacant equatorial city of Rhaenys. I know where Nason is now. You say seething. By the time Castrima gets to Rhaenys, she might be somewhere else. Tonke sighs. It's been a few weeks already, Esm. And Nason is probably somewhere else before you even woke up. You're shaking. It's not rational, and you know it, but you blurt. Maybe if I go now. Maybe if I can catch up. Maybe Hoa can tune into her. Maybe I can... Then you falter silent because you hear the shaky, high-pitched note of your own voice, and your mother instincts kick back in. Rusty, but unblunted. To chide you, stop whining, which you are. So you bite back more words. So you bite back more words, but you're still shaking. A little. Tonke shakes her head, an expression on her face that might be sympathy, or maybe it's just rueful acknowledgement of how pathetic you sound. Well, at least you know it's a bad idea, but if you're that determined, then you better get started now. She turns away. Can't really blame her, can't you? Venture into the almost uncertainly deadly unknown with a woman who's destroyed multiple communities, or stay with a Khan that at least theoretically will soon have a home again. That's barely even a question. But you should really know better than try to predict what Tonke will do. She sighs, after you subside and sit back on the rock that you've been using for a chair. I can probably wrangle some extra supplies out of the quartermaster if I tell them I need to go scout something for the innovators. They're used to me doing that, but I'm not sure I can convince them to give me enough for two. It's a surprise to realize how grateful you are for her. Loyalty isn't the word for it. Attachment? Maybe. Maybe it's just that you've been her research subject for all this time, so of course she's not going to let you slip away when she's followed you across decades and half the stillness. But then you frown. 2, not 3? You thought things were working out with her and Hajarka. Tonke shrugs, then awkwardly bends to tuck into the little bowl of rice and beans she has from the communal pot. After she swallows, she says, I prefer to make conservative estimates. You'd better, too. She means Lerna, who seems to be in the person of attaching himself to you. You don't know why. You're not exactly a prize, dressed in ash with no arm. Half the time, he seems to be furious with you. You're still surprised. It's not all the time that he was always a strange boy. Anyway, here's the thing. I want you to think about it, Tonke continues. What was Nason doing when you found her? And you flinch, because damn it, Tonke has once again said aloud a thing that you would have preferred to leave unsaid and unconsidered. And because you remember that moment, and with the power of the gate sluicing through you, when you reached and touched and felt a familiar resonance touch back. A resonance backed and amplified by something blue and deep and strangely resistant to the gate's linkage. The gate told you somehow that it was the sapphire. What is your 10-year-old daughter doing playing with an obelisk? How is your 10-year-old daughter alive after playing with an obelisk? You think of how that momentary contact felt. Familiar vibration taste of an orogeny, which she had been quelling since before she was born and trained since she was 2, but so much sharper and much intense now. More intense now. You weren't trying to take the sapphire from Nelson, but the gate was, following instructions that long dead builders somehow wrote into the layered lattices of the onyx. Nelson kept the sapphire, though. She actually fought off the obelisk gate. What has your little girl been doing this long, dark year to develop such a skill?